But just imagine this year, what's going to happen. One extra virus has affected humanity at a very different level. Till date, we have lost more than 4 lakhs of lives. Even we don't know what would happen in future. So this crisis, where we are going. Through TEDxKanke, we have started a series of talks where we are inviting industry captains, senior bureaucrats, academicians, experienced person, those who are sharing their ideas, their experiences. Yes, this is the biggest crisis, there is no doubt on that. But there is always a hope, a positivity, we will overcome that through our consistent effort with all positive note. Through this talk series, we will get the insight from the best of best minds from different streams. The industry captains who have served in their organization for a long time. They know good part and bad part also. So how to overcome their ideas, their suggestions, their experiences will certainly help to overcome this crisis. And through this small initiative with big objective, TEDxKanke is keen to bring the best ideas to a platform where everyone will be benefited. And in coming years, yes, we can say we have contributed to a little bit for the society, which is very important. We had started this TEDx program in the month of February, where we had organized the main event. And after that, during this lockdown, we have started webinar series. Today, it's a very great day, as we are having a great experienced speaker, Mr. C.P. Gurnani, who will share his insights. He is CEO and MD of TechMahindra. And we have young leader, young engineer, Mr. Bipul Mayank, who has done engineering from IIT ISM Dhanbad. And presently, he is doing masters from Yale University, USA. I can say he was fortunate that just before lockdown, he came back to India, and now he is in India, just experiencing this crisis at a bigger level. With all his small experiences, it would be a great interactive session with most experienced people, Mr. C.P. Gurnani, who is CEO of TechMahindra company. So I welcome Bipul to take forward this session and welcome C.P. Gurnani sir at the same time. Over to you, Bipul.
Well, thank you so much, sir, and good evening, everyone. With all what's going around, the one thing that comes to my mind is a famous saying by John Keynes, where the difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as in escaping from old ones. And I am thrilled to hear Mr. C.P. Gurnani talk about some of those ideas that we will require to move ahead in what's yet to be seen. So for all the audience, as Rajiv sir already introduced Mr. C.P. Gurnani, CEO and MD of TechMahindra. Well, he's a veteran and accomplished business leader with extensive experience in international business development, startups and turnarounds, joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, name it all for this for TechMahindra over the last few years. In a career spanning over 38 years and more, CP sir has led several leading positions with HP, Peros Systems, HCL, and many more. He has also served as a chairman of NASSCOM in 2016-2017 and has had an outstanding people and manager responsibilities. And he's often proved that he is one of the better leaders that people have often shared a lot of love, and we've heard him so much and always enjoyed his insights and conversations. And the one thing that I would really want to pinpoint here, and CP sir, this is something I would want to address later on in the interview, is your experience at NIT Rourkela, as you're a distinguished and active alumnus of the Institute. And I would love to, later on hear some of the experience from the Institute, because that's something I really connect with right now. And with that, I am really honored to get an opportunity to have this conversation with you. And I welcome with all of the audience present here for you to share your beautiful insights on how we're going to tackle what's going to come, what's in store, and what are your top strategies to push the country forward in a post-COVID normal. Over to you, sir, and just going to wait to hear what you have to say today.
Okay. So again, thank you so much, Bipul. And again, Rajiv Gupta, I want to congratulate you for curating and your capability in organizing the TEDxKanke. And obviously, we are all grateful to Mr. Sunil Gavaskar, the dynamic IS officer and who is so committed to Jharkhand. And thank you, Mr. Sri Ranjan, and thank you everybody on this call for having me here. I'm definitely humbled. I am quite aware that, as my chairman, Anand Mahindra, had tweeted that there are two words he does not like anymore. One is COVID and the other is webinar. So I'm conscious that, that this is not because of Mr. Gupta. It is not because, Bipul, you are so young and dynamic and you take such smart decisions that you stay in India, when the COVID breaks out. It's got more to do that we have probably discussed this word COVID so many times. And the other day, my son tells me, I was checking with him, did he watch something on the TV? He said, Dad, when I open TV, any of the news channel, all they talk about is COVID has now gone up, COVID will go down, COVID will turn left, and COVID probably will turn right. And I hate that word. So I'm sorry that the two people closest to me, my boss and my son, both don't like the word COVID. And today Rajiv ji has asked me to speak on life after the COVID world. I am in a way conscious that this crisis which has affected individuals, crisis which has affected societies, economies around the globe will at best be forgotten. But we know things that have lasted, at least in India, for 96 days cannot be forgotten. That the reality is, whether you are an IS officer like Mr. Burnwal, or whether you are a young professional like Ashima Kakkar, the reality is this crisis will change the way we live, the way we work, the way economies will function, the way geopolitical world will exist, and for want of a better word, we are saying systemic challenges, and those systemic challenges will come out of the crisis. Now, the basic debate is, will the world be more divided, more conflictual, or will it become too nationalistic? And the reality is that you and I, who have watched or read news, know that one accident in Minneapolis, one rogue police officer can create a worldwide protest. That we have seen, that one virus can cripple the economies of every part of the world, that the dollar can, the petrol, the Brent crude oil price can come down to below zero. Now, will we all allow this to continue? What will be that collective action that we will take individually, collectively, on the societal level, or on the country level, or on the global level? I personally believe that while the policymakers will look at stimulus, the policymakers will look at, how to rethink intellectual property regimes. They will probably relook at, Indian policymakers have used the word Atmanirbhar, or the other people will talk about self-reliance. That a Nissan car in Japan cannot be manufactured because one part of $10 is no longer available. So all of us do understand that the supply chains have to be questioned and re-questioned again and again. In India, our questioning will not only be on supply chain. In India, we will not only question why we import certain chemicals from China that our drug industry may come down to a cripple because we continue to be dependent on certain mineral, certain chemical, or a certain product. I'm sure all of us are questioning what is it that will be new in the new COVID world. We all have agreed that the world order is changing. We all have agreed that life for each one of us, for a TechMahindra associate, work from home is a reality. For probably a student, digital education is a reality. For a doctor, a digital health or a telehealth or a teleconsult is a reality. For a farmer, a digital marketplace has to become a reality, because this is your chance to take out that middle order that has always prevailed for the policymaker. One of the changes I am sure every leader has always wanted to make. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I am only asking you questions right now. The reason I'm asking you those questions is that if you want any change to happen, this is the time. Because somebody is very keen and somebody will be smarter than all of us, and they will make the change if we don't make the change. Let's look at the headlines again. The headlines talk about, in my opinion, the 5 C's. The 5 C's are China. Not because China is probably the parent of the crisis, called the COVID crisis, but it is also in the news because it is flexing its muscles against United States of America. That China has clearly decided that they will try and do a surround strategy of looking at Nepal, looking at Pakistan, to try and keep India busy on its borders. That China is the biggest investor in Sri Lanka cannot be called as an accident. Till 3 years ago, 4 years ago, China was not an investor in Sri Lanka. China was not an investor in Pakistan. China had no interest in Nepal. Why this interest in the last 5 years? We know their Silk Road, or rather Belt Initiative. We know how they have invested in such a big way in Africa. How we know that they are going after the European assets. That certain countries in Spain, Italy, and France, these countries have decided that China would not be allowed to buy any asset. It just tells you when the world order changes. And when the world order changes into two new blocks, what is China and USA, I think India has a unique place. That China is right now in confrontation actually gives a lot of bargaining capabilities to India. So I, for one, do watch TV to check on India's geopolitical stance, do want to look at how India will leverage, and more importantly, how India will benefit by shifting some of the manufacturing prowesses that China has into India. Because India has not only a bargaining power, but in my opinion, a unique opportunity. So many of us have a role to play here. Some of you as policymakers, some of us as private sector. And my answer to all of this is, let us recognize it as an opportunity. Let public and private work together and convert some of the disadvantage that China has. And all disadvantages are temporary. COVID is temporary, wars are temporary, and disadvantage is temporary. Question is, can public-private move hard and fast to take advantage of this? The other challenge to me is what I call the woman power. And I mean, again, Ashima being Ashima, she had to rub it in by giving you the photographs of leaders and bureaucrats which have been more successful in managing COVID. So now, I don't know whether Shri Ranjanji would agree or not, or whether Sunil Banwal will agree or not. But the reality is that this young Ardern, as a Prime Minister of New Zealand, declared that New Zealand is COVID-free. That Angela Merkel has done a better job than her neighbors in Britain, France, Italy, or Spain. That in Finland, you have a young Prime Minister who is all of 34-year-old, and she has a 2-year-old child. She says she had a better results than her neighbor in Sweden. The Taiwanese president, I don't even know what her pronunciation is, but she's on the extreme left as we speak. She's called Tsai Ing-wen. Again, she used all technologies to trace the virus. They did a damn good job of isolation, and they've done a better job. In India, our Kerala claims that their health minister was a lady. Her strategy, despite of the fact that she had a lot of foreigners come in, as one of my workers in the TechMahindra told me, and I'm sorry if I speak Hindi, and I assume many of you speak Hindi. He said, this is a chua-chut ki bimari. And he also said, this bimari has come only from people from richer nations. Bahar ke mulk se aayi hai. और ये आप अमीरों के लिए आई है, हमें क्यों मार रहे हो? So my point is that Shailja had the same things to answer. That it was Chhuachut means it is a contact contamination. It is all about the people, spreading the disease. Now, I agree with Ashima that women leaders make better leaders. I agree with Ashima, women leaders are made much stronger. But why this discussion on post-COVID world? I think the reason I have is, when I look at the unemployment figures of US, I realize that more women are getting unemployed. In whether it is Canada, whether it is Europe, and that is when I wonder, women make better leaders, and I'm a leader. Women have shown better flexibility in skilling. Women have shown better flexibility in managing the stress. Women have also shown that their resilience is much higher. They can handle a lot more of stress. Why is it that the woman unemployment has gone up when woman is successful? Similarly, and I'm sure, when Mr. Mayank, you do your research, or your college guys do your research, world over, the violence against women has increased during COVID times. Begs a question. If women are better leaders, and it is better that they help us settle in the new normal, in a life after COVID, why this violence against the woman? And I'm worried. I'm worried because post-COVID, the remote working or working from home will only increase. If it is going to increase, are we going to say that a woman will not be allowed to function, or a woman will be subjected to so much more of harassment? Gentlemen, I was only reminding all of us that the ladies who have proven their qualities, we need to be conscious that they should play a more pivotal role in the post-COVID world. So I just re-emphasize that there is, treat it as an opportunity, and my only request to all of us here is that we as responsible leaders can educate or bring them into the power. When they are in the power, that visual message will automatically illustrate the point that woman is post-COVID world, and woman will define what the world would look like. I do realize that I lost a bit of a time because of the power outage at my house. So I'll try and make it up. Look at again, the third point for me is creative entrepreneurship. And all of you, particularly, I know Mr. Burnwal wants to leapfrog Jharkhand, and he wanted Jharkhand to be known for startups, entrepreneurship, technology, and IT. I just want to humbly submit to Mr. Burnwal is that COVID is an equalizer. If we go creative on entrepreneurship at the government level, entrepreneurship at the college education level, entrepreneurship at the locations, then we have a chance to leapfrog. The fact is, the Premier League of football or an IPL has changed. There are people who are now looking at uh, a different way of doing business. I mean, your own Jharkhand's son of the soil, Mr. Dhoni, is looking at his life post his prime in cricketing by launching health clubs, but some of the health clubs that he's planning to launch are going to be very virtual. So think about it, a Dhoni who played cricket 24/7 will have not only his own health chain, but will have a virtual health chain. So I personally believe that there are too many opportunities. We need to steer the ship, and we need to creatively use this opportunity to redefine whether it is sports, whether it is retail, or anything that can be digital, because no longer a legacy of the past is an hindrance. One more point, as I said, it is 5 C's. Customer experience. Think about it. Is customer experience the X factor? Is customer experience about coming to your store and being treated nicely? I think the world has changed. We are now serving a customer that we have never seen. We are serving a customer who is touchless and is a digital customer, who's going to be living differently. Now, I personally believe that, am I still on the call? Please, can you play back? Rajiv ji, am I still on?
Yes, sir.
CP, we can.
Yeah, unfortunately, my screen is blanked out. That's why I'm asking. So all I am saying is, yes, customer experience will still be the X factor, but in this particular case, customer cannot be felt. So for some people, it is, I don't know how to live with it. For some people, it is an opportunity. And I definitely don't want Amazon to take that opportunity. I think each one of us in Jharkhand or in whichever part of the world, we need to be hyper aware that world has changed and every change is equal to opportunity. The future is right here. It may not be evenly distributed, as one of the science fiction writers have written, but my point again humbly is technology is the differentiator. Let's take advantage of the technology. Let us flatten the curve. Let us look at how to deliver better supply chain. Let us look at how to make rural economies the driver to the urban economies. Let us look at how mid-tier towns can drive the larger towns. Let us look at how the banking can be changed. We all saw that the KYC is now done on a video call by Kotak Bank. We have also seen insurance claims being settled on WhatsApp. So, ladies and gentlemen, I again repeat, it is our opportunity. So again, a slide on the last C. The last C to me is change and competition. To me, what is the change? The change is, if you are in a real estate business, you should be worried. The change is, if you are in an aviation business, you should be worried. Change is, if you're in a hotel business, try and look at how to convert that business. But if you are in a hotel business, which is selling a drive-through experience, you are going to do better. If you are in a hotel business, which can get a certification, which allows you to be verified that you are 100% safe against virus and germs, I think you're doing very well. If you are in the augmented reality, robotics, automation, AI, 5G, or in the business of conducting business online, then you are in a good position. But each business will still require a last mile distribution chain. Each business will require a freezer and a cooler supply chain. So the more you think about the cloud kitchens and the virtual restaurants, I think we are in a good business. So my request is, guys, let us adopt. Let's go in for reverse globalization. Let us go in for supply chain resilience. Let's go in for e-learning, and let's make most of the change, and let's emerge winners. And you do have an opportunity, and we can do it. The slide 8 that I am about to talk to you is all about how TechMahindra has worked on it. Number one, we looked at the challenges and we said we are going to respond to the challenges. Overnight, 93% of our workforce worked from home. Number two, we said we are going to revive. We are going to bring in all the finances we borrowed. We build up our war chest. Why? Because I think revival will require, we have prepared ourselves for a very long winter. Whether the vaccine will come in 3 months, 6 months, we don't know. But we have prepared for a long winter. So despite of the fact that we had cash on the balance sheet, we borrowed. And last but not the least, we started planning for the future. We planned for the change. We planned for the 5 C's. So I can only say, sir, that these responses that I'm sharing with you, we practiced it. The world will have a new vaccine. The world will have a new drug. The world will be able to fight the COVID vaccine, and the world will become a different place. Whether it is a better place or not, it depends on us. So again, thank you for having me here. I mean, I genuinely appreciate Mr. Burnwal giving me that phone call. I genuinely appreciate Rajiv ji inviting me. And again, thank you. Thank you guys for having me with you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insight on your strategies. You know, the 5 C's perfectly put forward, and that broadly covers the kind of strategies most companies would require to adopt to move ahead. I think there was also a scope to add the 6th C, which would be climate action, as TechMahindra is one of the 4 companies who recently signed a pact with the UN to be forward to a net zero economy. As you know a lot about technology driving the change forward, I wanted to ask you that while there are many technologies that hold the key to the future, which technology, according to you, has the biggest impetus in the post-COVID world?
Again, Bipul, I think again, if you go back into our own logo, we talked about the connected world and connected experiences. And to me, connected world, that you and I lost my internet connection on this call. I wish I was doing this call on 5G. I hated losing this connection, but the reality is we are in a situation where we had no choice but to improvise. So if I were to bet on one technology, it will be 5G. If I had to bet on a host of technologies, then it is 5G, AI, edge computing, virtual reality, and quantum computing.
Right. And having said that, you know, mentioning so much about AI or Internet of Things and different kind of technologies moving forward, As the president of NASSCOM and top contributor of India Inc., what would you think, the prospect that awaits Indian IT and IT enabling service companies? And what role will government have to play to make this possible, to make sure that we have that 5G connection, to make sure that most of our companies, not just the bigger companies with capacity, but smaller MSMEs, can have the capacity to access the kind of technology that you just mentioned? So what is your take on that?
Yes, I'm the past chairman of NASSCOM. Yes, TechMahindra is one of the 5 largest companies in IT and ITS. I personally believe the opportunities, and I did cover it, that the opportunities lie in skilling and reskilling. Look at in front of you. While you were in lockdown, communication, media and technology, financial services, consumer goods sector, all continued to work. Electricity, more or less continued to work. Government and industry tried to work. And to me, if you look at what became more evident is the digital skill gap. And what became evident is lack of research and development. Why should this call be done on a Chinese product called Zoom? Why is it that we do not have an Indian product? Similarly, if I were a guy advising somebody, I would say that look at cyber and data security, because you need to have a very, very robust, secure network. And at this stage, I would think we are a little vulnerable. So my request as an NASSCOM ex-president, ex-chairman, is bring back innovation, bring back products, bring back research and development, and more importantly, let's become secure.
Right. Thank you so much. On that note, there's one final question that I wanted to ask before we move into the audience. When we talk about the kind of revolution coming and creating that digital space for people to work, one large question would be, how do we get employees to be accessible to the companies, have that trust with the employers? This pandemic has made sort of a permanent change in the existing organizational culture, and companies will have to embrace remote. Do you think that things will go back to normalcy given enough time post-pandemic? And on the same lines, I would want to know, how has TechMahindra handled the whole remote working situation during the crisis, and also people suffering with mental health issues and that insecurity about will they have their jobs, will they not have their jobs? So how do you think that will shape once the pandemic is over?
So again, Mr. Mayank, there will be 2 types of people. One is people like me who like to go to work. And there will be people who will prefer not going to work. The reality is 25% of our workforce is going to work remote. And if that is true, then we need to make sure that we strengthen the processes of work from home. We look at not only an individual's way of working. So for example, in most of my teams, we give a compulsory day off. We say, like, guys, yeah, first few months was fine, but I want you guys to have a day off. Then we do these virtual fun parties. I mean, people are singing, dancing, doing whatever makes them feel good. There are people like me who like to dress up on certain days and dress down on certain days. It is just like, if it is a Monday, it is a dress up day. If it is a Friday, it's a dress down day. The point is that I'm trying to build a routine. Now, culture of trust, culture of confidence, and a culture of continuity, I think depends on the leaders. I can only say is that I drove from Delhi to Pune because I wanted to be in the face of my employees and wanted to reinforce that culture of continuity and culture of bonding and culture of trust. So different leaders will have their own methods of working. I can only say is new way of life does not mean workforce is not part of my family. And if they are part of my family, we will work together, whether through empathy, whether through sympathy, or whether through reaching out and doing things differently. But again, stress is individual. We can create an environment of stress busting. We can do online initiatives. We can meet and have fun. The choice is us. Today's environment, whether it is a meditation or a yoga, everything has gone digital. I'm sure we'll find a way of remaining connected even when we are separated.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. I think with the given time constraints, that's the question that I had to ask. And now we will move towards the questions that the audience have for you. So firstly, I would like to invite Mr. Amitesh Anand, who has a question. And if we can have him unmuted and be ready with his question for Mr. C.P. Gurnani.
Thank you, Bipul. And thank you, sir, for your thoughts on 5 C's and way to address. And amidst this crisis, we have an opportunity, and this question is pretty much around it. So everyone is talking about analyzing the length of disruption, depth of disruption, and shape of recovery. So it's a twofold question because you spoke about an optimism, so it is more to do with that. So are there any perfect metrics to rely on, or it is just indicators of various types? And if these are just indicators, then on what we should rely more, intuitive mind or design thinking?
Very good question. I can only say is combine both left brain and the right brain. Workstation as a service, remote working would not have happened unless the solution was anyway ready. If the solution was ready, then only the e-learning or the schools have been able to adapt quickly to the pandemic. That a telehealth solution or a pharma delivery solution was always available. It is purely that the regulator at that point of time was undecided. So my generic suggestion to anyone is that new world, new content, new communication, but learn from the history because no new science fiction is being written here. Number 2 point about the forecasting models. I can only tell you from my perspective is that viruses are here to stay. I honestly don't know whether we will find a solution to this virus or a future strain of this virus or a new mutation of this virus in the next 6 months. Now we can't be locked down. So we said, all right, lockdown versus livelihood. So unlockdown. Then we said unlockdown means diseases. Diseases means we need to plan for hospital beds. Now, the reason I'm going through all of this is not to give you a scientific theorem. All I'm trying to tell you is there is a TB, which is still a cause of death. There is a cancer, which is still a cause of death. There is an HIV, which is still a cause of death. I would like all of us to start working on an assumption that COVID-19 is here to stay. And if that is the truth, what is our answer? So if all of us start believing in it, that means we all are going to be more hygienic. If we are going to be more hygienic, we are not going to contaminate others. if we are not going to contaminate others, and if we are going to be secure, I think that is the right answer to this virus. Instead of 1/3 of us migrating, 1/3 of us trying to still live a normal life, and 1/3 of us scared and sitting at home. I mean, you choose which 1/3 you are, but 1/3 method is not going to work.
Sure, sir. Thank you. So we are making a virus confuse whose virus, and that's the right way forward, sir.
Next, I would like to invite Sunil Bernwal, sir, for his question. So over to you.
Yeah. Good evening, Gurnani ji. Thank you for addressing us, and it's a wonderful and very insightful address. And you mentioned so many points which is so relevant for people living in Jharkhand. As this whole COVID situation has proved, the best place to live, to work from, or to be there is the home. And that is how people living outside home, whether they were living abroad, where people living in the metropolis cities, they all going back to their home. Somehow that feeling has come. The best is to be at home. Even working has become so easy from home. And we realize this because nothing changes if you work from home sitting in Ranchi or sitting in Bangalore. And this also creates a big opportunities for states like Jharkhand, and primarily the whole Eastern India, from where a lot of manpower had moved to the bigger cities. Not just the unskilled or semi-skilled, even the highly skilled people studying from good engineering colleges and all had been working in big cities. Now, in this situation, a lot of people have come back to a smaller city. People like Mayank, Bipul, studying in Yale and staying in Ranchi. So these people can bring a lot of things for the development of these states. And these states which were trying to match the bigger states or more developed states had, except technology equalizer, we didn't get the ecosystem or the environment which was helping us to grow faster. And you said very rightly, we would have to leapfrog if we really want to come in line with the developed states. How do you think this reverse migration, which has been triggered by this peculiar situation of COVID-19, can be harnessed to develop these states, and what policies government should think of to actually leverage this potential, which has somehow for whatever reasons have come back to the state again. So can you just throw some light on that?
Mr. Banwal, again, thank you for inviting me and having me with you. I can only say, please reimagine all your policies. All your policies assume that the government has some power over an individual and that we should be begging in front of you, whether it is a death certificate or whether it is a birth certificate, whether it is a license to build a house or a license to modify a house. I think if you reimagine your own policies, that is the first time when you will make a difference. If a COVID can force us to reimagine that offices are not part of our life and home can be the office, I can only beg you, sir, that healthcare has proven, schooling has proven, pharmacies have proven, ultimately 3D printing will prove that even a car can be made in your garage. So if the government can also reboot and reimagine that, I think Jharkhand has that opportunity because it's a small state, it's a rich state comparatively, and also it wants to do something different. The second part is, I think that public-private partnership, because There is nothing that I want from you other than a partnership to invest with me, partnership to create market with me, and partnership to also build the talent. So whether it is people, process, or technology, I think we can work together to build it. Again, whether we take an example as a very bold, ambitious example of a semiconductor industry, India imports 50 million phones a year, but it also imports the semiconductors. When we talk about Make in India, we are talking about assembling phones in India. We have really never made it in India. When we talk about our import bills, we still talk about petroleum dollars. We have never really become fully self-reliant. Whether it is hydropower, whether it is solar power or any other alternate power or hydrofuels, I think it is our chance to reinvent and rebuild. I can go on and on, sir, but ultimately my request is, like the world is forcing us to wipe the slate clean and rewrite, my request is some of your departments, whether they are fishery department or mining departments or whether they are your agriculture departments, please rewrite all the rules and let us do partnership.
Thank you. We're moving towards the end segment of our webinar today, and we would like to have one last question from Mr. Vidyanand, who is joining us from UK and currently working at Grant Thornton. Mr. Vidyanand, if you're unmuted, you could go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Gurnani sir. I think it's lovely to hear your insights. Even though we are physically very far away, but because of technology, we are able to understand your thoughts and your insights on how we are going to recover from this COVID pandemic. I have got two questions basically. I would just like to, and you will understand these are interrelated in a moment. The first question is, sir, you mentioned about a lot of organizations moving to work from home scenario. I think TCS has made up a plan of moving 75% of the workforce to work from home. And you also mentioned 25% of your workforce is going to be permanently working from home. So do you see any impact on reality sector? Do you see any impact on real estate sector in the cities? Do you think it is going to create some kind of decentralization that a lot of companies would eventually go to tier 2 cities? And is there some kind of more of a widening up of the metro cities, what we are going to see in India, and then breaking away from 5 or 6 metros to maybe 10 or 15 sub metros? Is that the scenario you're looking at? And the second question, which is also related to this, is do you think government should also think about creating some kind of radical policy shift? So something like making broadband free for everybody. I mean, maybe up to 10 Mbps or maybe up to 100 GB per month. Is it really going to make everybody in a proper democracy framework, and everybody will have an equal chance to kind of work and learn technologies at the same time, watch videos and educational content, and then it will give a kind of an opportunity so that everybody is starting from the same place. So do you think that is going to be some kind of a challenge? So these are the two questions I had in my mind. Gurnani sir.
Okay, thank you. So let me start by the last one. I believe in zero governance or minimum governance. The reason I'm again putting it is, why do I need a government to give me a broadband free? Why would I not want government not to interfere in my life? And why should I be dependent on a Jio or a Airtel or a Vodafone or a BSNL? I mean, if you look at broadband can be made available to you through satellites. Today we have regulated. Government wants us to only talk to these 4 guys and a few ISPs. The reality is that the signal coming into your house through a satellite can be a two-way signal. If it is a two-way signal, you have got a broadband at home. I mean, which is part of your satellite package. Similarly, if you have been reading, Google had trials about putting a balloon on a cluster of villages, and that balloon would act as a mini satellite. I mean, again, that's the last mile. How do I connect it a little better? So the alternate technologies today exist. There are 6 or 7 more. But today, you and I cannot get those technologies because government has regulated only a few for us. So my request is please pay that, whatever that bill is, but ask for a little more independence in choosing the technology so that the way I had a blackout, you don't have to suffer a blackout. The second point, which you said metro and non-metro, I believe there are cities like Ranchi, Udaipur, or a Durgapur, or a Jamshedpur, or a Rourkela, which can easily attract tons of people. They only need better air connectivity and a better, mobile connectivity. And not that they are not trying, but I think if they need to attract, they need to try harder. Now, what are the methods of trying harder? I know that there are standard ways that you can. One is what Mr. Burnwell said, people coming back home. But more importantly is, I strongly believe it's like a Kerala did a beautiful job of selling Kerala, which is Kerala, God's own country. I think these non-metros have to do a job of selling how healthcare, education, work for spouses, or education for the children, everything is a lot more abundantly available. People would look at non-metros because they go to metros because the non-metros are not competing. The third question was on real estate. I think I've answered that question, that in a short term, real estate will remain stressed, mainly, particularly the commercial real estate, because many of us have learned new way of working, which is work from home. And I don't see people would be in a hurry to go back. But why did I use the word short term? Because you have to remember the new norm will be less number of people in a building. That means the de-densification would take place. And if there is de-densification, I need more square foot per individual than I was currently budgeting for. And if more square foot is required, that means I will need more real estate. So I'm going to take a pause here. And again, since the organizer said it is the last question, I can only say, thank God there are problems, because when there are problems, we do find solutions.
So with a given time constraint, I mean, we've had a lot of questions coming up. So if you could allow just 2 more questions to be asked, if that's okay with you, I'll just invite our next audience member.
Okay.
All right. So we have Mr. G.K. Pillai with us, and I'll ask him to just switch on his video and unmute himself and be ready with his question.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to you, Mr. It has been a fantastic, talk. Your insight into various aspects has been very, very beautiful, Mr. Gurnani. I have one question. I'm more from the manufacturing sector, because there's a lot of talk, a lot of hype is being there all over the country, that many of the American or European manufacturers would like to shift their manufacturing base out of China. And we as Indians are very keen to get those manufacturing base in India. So my question is, Why is it still many of those companies prefer to go to smaller countries like a Philippines or a Taiwan or a Thailand or even Bangladesh than to come to India, in spite of the fact that we have got a good technical expertise in the country? So that was one. Connected to that, what do you think we should do differently to ensure that we attract these foreign companies to come and set up shop in India? Thank you.
So, Mr. Pillai, I agree that it is an opportunity, but there are some key issues and challenges that India faces. Number one is infrastructure. Number two is inconsistency of the policies. Number third, people like Vodafone who had to leave India and pretty much do a reverse merger with Vodafone, called it a tax terrorism. So, you know, while in ease of doing business, we are doing well, but the reality is some of the old memories have become scars and longer to heal. The smaller countries, whether it is Vietnam or Bangladesh, their labor laws are very friendly. Their cost of labor is much lesser than India. While our capacity building through technology and people is higher, but unfortunately, it only can attract when your technology and capacity are linked to each other. Typical manufacturing does not require such a high dosage of technology, but it does require a lot of blue-collared workers. So again, Indian business scene, there are challenges, but I know there are changes happening, and I do believe that India, if goes aggressive, will get a fair share.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we do finally come to our last question. We have Mr. Lakhan Dhingra in the audience. If he's ready to go ahead. Mr. Lakhan.
Yeah, hello, sir. So my question to you is regarding the labor force participation of women in India, which stands at 23% in 2019. And the same number was 33% in 2005. So basically, we have gone backwards. And I would also like to point out that the same number in Saudi Arabia is 24%. So we are behind one of the most orthodox countries in the world. So my question to you is first, where we went wrong with respect to the participation rate, and what can we do from here to improve the situation? Yeah.
Good. Ultimately, three parts to any labor force participation rate. Number one is, what is the population that you cover, 16 to 64? Number two, do you cover housewives and people who sometimes participate in the workforce? It's like, you know, people who do embroidery at home, people who make papad at home. I mean, I don't know whether we cover that or not. Number third is, in my own calculation, the third factor is always automation. So, for example, if you went to the airport earlier, Lakhanji, you had to be checked in. Now you don't have to be checked in. You know, you can print your own boarding pass and directly go to security. Tomorrow, if the security gets automated, you would have a less labor force participation. So I would love to see that statistics, but I want to see it after qualifying it and normalizing it for the same set of level and same set of parameters. The the second point for me, which is more about not participation. To me, participation is not production. Participation does not mean efficiency. I'm more interested in efficiency and flexibility. And sometimes when I look at Bangladesh export figures, particularly in garments, particularly how their economy is doing, I think it is a wake-up call for all of us. And genuinely, I don't think we are responding very well to those wake-up calls.
Right. So with that, we are done with our audience questionnaire as well. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with the insights, strategies that we should look forward to, and answering all the questions that came across us. And I think it was a wonderful experience for me as well to be posting some of these questions and get to hear you up front. So thank you once again, and thank you everyone who joined us and participated in the webinar. And we're hoping to see you again. We'll be meeting again next Saturday at the same time at 4 p.m. And we're hopeful to get more of you in the regular webinars that we are going to come up with in the coming days. And once again, I would really thank you, TEDx team, to give me the opportunity to moderate this session today. And I was super thrilled to be doing this. So with that, I would check out, and I wish you all a good evening and stay safe. Take care, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So it's a great moment, and we thoroughly enjoyed this session. And thanks to CP Gurnani sir and all participants from bureaucracy, from corporate, friend from UK. So it's a kind of thing happening. We are very positive, and we are trying to bring a positivity among all of us. So this sort of session will certainly enrich our knowledge, and we will certainly go ahead with some positive thing. So from core of heart, sir, we are thankful, and we would love to have some more insight, more experiences in future. We are looking forward. This is just a small step with a bigger objective. Together we can win, and certainly we will make our India, make in India a better country for all of us.